Welcome to Season 3 of Unspoken Truth. This will be a journey of breaking generational curses, spiritual ties, while we live in our purpose, and to become one with our higher selves through breaking chains of poverty consciousness and understanding the power of attraction, and always aiming to be better versions of ourselves and vibrating in our frequencies. Join me on this journey of discovering unspoken truths and changing the narrative. This is from a woman who's just like you, a mother, a sister, a daughter, and God's child. And in everything else in between, I am still an individual riding the waves of life. I am Nita Terry T, your host of Unspoken Truth. Why do women cheat? Cheating is a choice, not a mistake. Unknown. Ladies, I know you might fight me on this one, but do hear me out and sit and analyze this topic. We all know men tend to cheat more than women, hence the saying men are trash. We have established that, and we know men cheat for the sake of cheating, meaning they chase the physical appearance more than anything else, while for women, it's way different. When it comes to women, we're emotional beings that are consistently in need of reassurance and love. Women are naturers, caring and hardly irrational beings. For a woman to cheat, it means there was a driving force to get to the point of stepping out of the relationship. So, before we tackle this topic, today I'm joined by a guest co-host, Tammy. Tell the Unspoken Truth family a little bit about yourself before we dive into the topic.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Tammy, as Anita has mentioned. I'm a vibrant 35-year-old woman. I'm a lover of life. I actually stole this line from Anita, but I'm all about people. I'm all about wellness. I'm all about being in equilibrium with self. I'm all about getting yourself to a good space. So anything about the heart is what matters to me.
Thank you for joining us today. And I know the Unspoken Truth family is going to be excited to have this topic and you as our co-host. We cannot say all women are the same, right? So let's say we're not addressing the slay queens or the girls who are chasing the big bags by any means necessary. Today, we want to talk about the women who solely look for love, marriage, children, women who want to build their future with their men or women of their life. Tammy, let's dive in deep. What is your take on why women cheat?
Okay. First and foremost, before we go deep into this, my first thought that comes to mind is societal norms, in the sense that the societal norms expect that women should be developed in a different way towards, compared to men, and that women are not idealistically prone to cheating because they are formed or they are groomed in a certain way. But for me personally, there is very little difference between a man and a woman. Okay, in terms of needs, in terms of wants, in terms of satisfaction, in terms of everything. It's just society has then taught us that a woman is not supposed to, or a woman who cheats is then deemed to be or have less moral value. Okay. So with that point being made, in my mind, in my heart, there is very little difference when it comes to a woman and a man. It's just the biological factors, that we are not biologically the same. But in terms of emotions, in terms of needs, in terms of wants, we are very similar beings. And I'll say this, someone said something to me yesterday, and it's like, it's so weird that women are expected now to provide like men. They're expected to do the same jobs like men in the same fashion, in the same manner. But when it comes to moral things, women are expected to be a certain way that men aren't, So going back to your question, I believe that women cheat for the very same reason that men cheat, and maybe even more. Women cheat because they need affection. Women cheat because they need security. Women cheat because they want attention. Women cheat because their emotional needs are not met. And you made a point in the beginning where you said a woman okay, I'm paraphrasing, but it takes a lot for a woman to get to a point where they cheat.
Yes.
So for me, a woman who cheats is a woman who has not been, whose needs have not been met and have not been satisfied. But you'd probably find that before they got to that point, there was a lot of, please, I am begging, can we, and all of that. But those things were not met. And then she finds herself in a vulnerable place where then she feels as if and a lot of women who have cheated will tell you that it's not something they planned to do. It's a situation where they found themselves in, where gentleman B just came and became everything that gentleman A wasn't, and everything that she's been asking gentleman A to be. And then she found herself in that.
I think I hear what you're saying, that society makes us different. And I want to beg to differ there a little bit. Okay. I do understand that society has this thing of making us these, I guess because we are groomed that way. We need to act a specific way. We need to do things differently. But at the same time, the reason why I say this, because I'm a 33-year-old woman and I've started to realize more about myself than I did when I was in my 20s. As much as society raised me to be this dignified woman, but then I grew and I had relationships and I started knowing who I was as a person. And then I get to realize as a person, or being women, I can't speak for every woman, but we programmed a little bit different. When I say that, when I said in the beginning, we are naturists, it's in our DNA. So before we decide to do something, the first thing in our mind is to grow something, right? No matter what society says, it's in us. It's one thing. I remember when I had my first son and the doctor said to me, the girl that you were died and the woman and the mother that you are was born today. Right. So it's exactly the same thing. It's everything we do goes in phases and stages. That's where I want to go with this. So for a woman to get to a specific point of cheating, I do understand we're exactly like men. But the difference is that a woman would never go out with the girls and say, this man is hot, therefore I will cheat. Right? Women, when I say they're emotional beings, for a woman to cheat or to find herself in that situation, it has to go with emotions. Because we are so linked with our emotions than the physical sense of the world. We would never just go, oh, Chomi, did you see that guy? Yes, we're going to say it, but we're not just going to go run and cheat with that guy. Whereas with men, oh, this girl, that ass, this, and they go and do exactly that, right? So yes, we are the same as men, but for us, I believe it's very calculated. And when I say it's very calculated, like you're saying, you're driven to a point where you begged until you had to go there, right? You had to find yourself there. But at the same time, we can also argue and say, I'll make this example quickly. You said attention, love, security, and but there's something we forgot: self. Because sometimes it's not the other person that makes you do the things that you want to do. Sometimes it's self. Because I remember back in the day when I was in it was actually a wonderful relationship for 3 years, and I stepped out of our relationship, not because there was something wrong with my partner, but there was something wrong with self. I felt I was not me, and I was trying to find me in other relationships, which was wrong, right? Which was wrong. So there was nothing wrong. We stayed together, we lived together, everything we did together, we're good. We do almost everything. Attention is there, security is there, but I wasn't enough for that relationship. So I stepped out of my relationship because I wasn't enough. I didn't feel good enough to be in that relationship anymore. I didn't feel, and I can't even say I wasn't heard. I was heard. But there's a specific type of herd that I wanted. Sometimes also, that's why I say it's so calculated, because we tend to drive everything that we go through with emotions. Hence, we always say, women, we have daddy issues, right? So if we've got fucked up relationships with our fathers, we're going to try find our fathers in a lot of our relationships, right? We're going to try and put ourselves there because there's something missing. And that's what I wanted us to talk about. And that's why I said, let's exclude slave queens, people who are trying to make bag, because that's a whole different group of women. We want to talk about this wonderful woman who's been married. Let's have a scenario, who's been married 15 years. In the 15 years, 2 kids, 3 kids, works a good job, husband works a good job, security is there, right? And yeah, maybe they are lacking. Another thing I like when you brought society, let's talk about the bedroom in a relationship. If it lacks, are we driven into cheating? Okay. The bedroom is the sense of, so let's say the bedroom includes everything, the physical, your own physical appearance and all those things. So now you're in this marriage, 15 years, 3 kids, you're with this husband, you do have the security, but there's something missing. Why would that, what do you think drives that woman to cheat?
Okay. So, you made so many points. I'll try to remember all of them. But the most important one about self, can we just park there?
Yes.
So I'll give you a personal example, in terms of self. I grew up in an Adventist home, all right, where you are groomed for marriage, pretty much. Everything, when you're growing up, this and this, you must be this kind of woman, you must do this and you must do that and you must do that. And my mother was very, very strict, to the point where my dating life was very, I don't even know the word for it, but I would only be allowed to go see my boyfriend at the time, for 2 hours, but more 8, I had to be at home. And I remember when I was dating my husband, okay, we only had little time, because as soon as I knock off work, then I can see him from, let's say, from 5 until 7. By 8 o'clock, my mom literally locks the doors. And if you're not home, that is a huge problem. And we soon then got married, okay? And then we had the marriage. And going into the marriage, I thought I knew myself. I thought I knew what I want. I thought I knew what I expected in a relationship. But what I learned when I was in the marriage is that I didn't know who I was. My identity was based on my upbringing, on what my parents expected from me, of what my mother taught me, of what the church expected from me. Okay, so now I'm here, I'm in this marriage, and I'm starting to find bits of myself that don't align with who I thought I was. Okay, so there's a huge turmoil mentally, emotionally, because I'm like, these two things don't correlate. Was I even ready for marriage? According to the norms of our church, at a certain age, you should be married. And True. I got married with that norm, later than that norm, rather. So here I am, Tammy as a wife, and I don't know myself. Okay, so I'm just going to fast forward this scenario. I got married, and at some point we got separated. And when we got separated, obviously now, this is the first time, Anita, that I am in my own world, without the influence of mom, without the influence of church, without the influence of Hadi, who expects me to be a certain wife. And his expectations come from what I had taught him that I was. Okay. Mm-hmm. Then I'm now in my own world, and I realize, but I don't like this, and I don't like that, and I don't like this, and I really wasn't this, and I really wasn't that. But I'm now going back to a self. In my marriage, because of the things I was taught, I didn't step out because I didn't want to be that woman. Okay, but now going back, I realized I wasn't what I thought I was, knowing what I know now. So I'm going back to that to say, how many women stay in marriages or are in marriages and they don't know their true self or their true being? Because now they're in that marriage and they realize, I like this, or I prefer this. But because I'm bound by this marriage and I'm bound by being faithful, how do I then stay faithful? Do you understand what I'm saying? And again, I'll bring the societal norms, Uguti. For a man to feel like that, they'll be allowed to dabble, in quotes, to go out and experience and do whatever. it will not come back to them as harshly as it would as a woman. Because think about it, if I had said, no, man, I don't feel comfortable in this relationship, let me try something else, it's not going to sit well with anyone.
Yes.
I'll be deep. Exactly. So that's where the self comes in. Okay. So again, I feel like as women, we don't really get to know ourselves the way we should. And that's why when we come to certain points of our lives, we find ourselves then getting out of relationships and doing things that we shouldn't, in quotes, right? Because now I'm finding a new tummy, and I need to know, is this tummy in my head or is this tummy real? Because for me to understand and for me to actually know, is this what I like or is this just something I think I like? I have to go and experience it.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So I think that's, for me, with a lot of women, has been the biggest challenge. And coming back to, let's say, sexual satisfaction and so forth, where you have the greatest relationship and so forth. I had a friend, she married as a virgin, né? And she was not about sex, because for her, her sexual experience in that marriage was not exciting.
Yeah,
Do you
and it's her
understand?
first time anyway.
Yeah, it was her first time, and she's like, oh, is this sex, But later in life, she had an encounter with someone else, and it was different. And then now she realizes, actually, I do like sex.
I don't think I like my husband's sex.
Precisely. Sexual compatibility.
Mm-hmm.
But do we then talk about those things? Do we then discuss them prior to getting into serious and committed relationships to say that you need to be sexually compatible? Because what then happens is that what? For example, she and her husband would fight a lot. Why? Because she wasn't giving him enough sex.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because she didn't like him or she wasn't in love with him. She adored him and everything. But for her, sex was just like, is this sex? I don't get any satisfaction from this. And it's because she's never known that you have to do certain things or you have to enjoy it in a certain way and so forth. And the compatibility was not there. Does it then make her a bad person? But you see, then the husband cries about what? You're not giving me enough sex. And then it leads to other problems, because he will now go and look for sex elsewhere. And then now they have marital problems and. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I've answered your question there, but yeah.
Because I guess because the reason why I'm asking about the sex topic and if women are driven out of relationships because of sex is because one thing I've noticed, and this is from listening to friends, family, like I've gotten to a point in my life when I'm talking to people, I pay attention. And
Okay.
it's more like I now keep a logbook of similarities, right? And one thing that I've noticed is that sex is definitely one of the driven force that women go out, right? And at the same time, I realize that it goes back to these emotion things, because when I look at a lot of women that step out of their relationships to go cheat, they're going for two things: emotions, cuddles, and sex.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Emotions, cuddle,
Yeah.
and sex. And then with men, it's, where there's a hole, there's a way. Everything we go, we're doing it. Doesn't matter. For women, and then with women also in their cheating, it then goes for a very long time. It doesn't become, oh, this is what I'm doing. It becomes a whole new relationship within another relationship, right? So it goes back to the fact that women are driven to two things: sex, emotions. Is it because the other partner is not paying attention enough? Or is it because she's not asking what she wants and communicating what she wants? Or is it a cry for help? Right? Because other people will go out of their marriage hoping the husband is going to notice that I'm crying for help, instead of saying, like, look at the example you did of your friend. She went out because she wasn't enjoying the sex. The question is, did she sit down and say, but I don't like it when you touch me this way. I want you to touch me, in this kind of way. And I know as married people, it's a bit hard, or even in a relationship, it's hard to sit down with your partner and say, yeah, but I really don't like the sex thing with you anymore. My blood boils when I sleep with you. But then the question is, do you address those things with that person? So women, we're constantly stepping out of relationships. And I'm not going to say we're constantly doing it, because women hold relationships together for 20 years, 30 years, without even thinking of cheating. Maybe a few of emotional cheating, because that's another thing that people don't consider cheating. Calling a friend who wants to listen to all your problems, which is also still cheating. But it's always just driven in that, because the reason why I'm saying this, I don't believe that women cheat because of security and money. I don't believe it. I don't believe that women step out of a relationship because the man doesn't have bag. Because for the fact that you got into that relationship in the first place, you knew what you're getting yourself into, right? Whether there was money or not, you in this relationship. But the only driven force, or the driving force in cheating for women, for me, I still say it's emotions and sex. Because it goes back to what you were saying, self. We only discover ourselves later as we grow up on the things we like and the things we don't like. But in our 20s, we were just trying it out and seeing how it goes. But then now in our 30s, because I've noticed that cheating is such a thing in our age group, it is disgusting. You go to a party, somebody's cheating, right? Whether you want to trust your partner or not, there is some sort of cheating. I remember I said that to my partner, now husband. I remember saying to him, you think it's innocent to laugh in a chat, but there's no innocence in that chat.
Sure.
Because it starts so innocently of saying, how's your day? Nothing. But because you're already entertaining the thought of having laughter, that is the beginning of cheating.
Okay.
Right? So I'm now sitting here, and I'm looking at all the past relationships I've had, all the cheating I've done myself, and I'm thinking, why did I do it? What drove me there? Did the person drive me there? Because I remember coming up with excuses. Because that's another thing. Psychologically, we always create these excuses to make another person wrong.
Yeah.
Because he's not providing, I'm going to cheat. Because he's not giving me sex, I'm going to cheat. Because there's something missing, I'm going to cheat. Yeah. And you said maybe they cheat because they said, please, 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 but there is no change, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's no change. You keep on asking. But the question is, are you asking it correctly, or are you demanding it? Okay. Because sometimes we tend to say things as if we are asking, but we forget sometimes that person doesn't know. Okay. That person doesn't even know how to do it. We've had this discussion with my husband where he says, what do you expect of a man who was never raised by other men to be a good husband? Sure. Then now you are seeking this model of a husband, this person who can communicate, but how that person themselves don't even know what's a good example of being a husband. So they are raised by the streets. You take your problems to the streets, you are bound to do the wrong things, because you have no perfect model of saying, she's saying she wants women on top. But you can't go tell your friends that, hey, she's persisting that this is what she wants. You've got nobody to talk to. You've got no father to talk to. Yeah. And it's the same thing I was saying to my mom, that even us as women, sometimes it's hard for us to call our parents and say, I'm not being satisfied in bed.
Mm-hmm. What do I do?
What do I do? I don't want to step out of my marriage. I don't want to cheat. I don't want to step out of anything. But there's just something that is just not going right. But how do I fix it? And I feel also that's another driving force for people to come out. There isn't anybody to talk to. But at the same time, even if we talk to each other, the question is there enough education for that person to understand or articulate what is missing? Because I can say, baby, you're not giving me attention. Guye, what is attention? Is it me talking to you every day, texting you, Because we need to be specific. What type of attention do you want? Is it physical touch attention? Do you want to watch movies? Are you not going on dates? Are your conversations running dry? What is the attention? So I feel like that's where most of the problems start with a lot of women. We have this picture of what goes wrong so quickly, and we say, okay, but I don't want to really talk about it, or I don't want to make him feel less of a man. And we create other problems. And now I'm starting to have these conversations with my mother and my mother-in-law. As much as people think this is so uncomfortable, my husband was like, this is so uncomfortable. You can't speak about our sex life with our parents. And I'm like, but then if I can't go tell my friends my problems. If I've got a problem, I'm like, I want to create a platform for our parents to know that we're two humans. So the day we've got problems, they must be the first people to say, why can't you hear her out? This is the point in which she's trying to bring across, right? And I generally think that as women, we have the biggest problem is self. We cheat because of self. I know we don't constantly do it because we're not irrational beings. We don't just act out of things, but we are the ones who are doing it, and we're doing it to ourselves. And I don't want to run the time because it seems like time is no longer on our side. But yeah, I want to ask you one last thing. Sure. One last thing. And we can have a part 2 because I feel like there's so much things we need to unpack.
Yes.
We'll have a part 2 of this episode. But I want to ask you, in your life, have you cheated?
Okay. So I cheated when I was single. I don't know how to explain. Okay. In my marriage, I did not step out. Yes. When my husband and I had broken up fully. So for me, this was in the self-discoveration period. Okay. So, but in my cheating, I don't know how to explain. I was seeing a few people, not physically, but I was going on dates. And to another man, that would come across as cheating, isn't it?
But what were you seeking? What were you seeking?
I didn't know at the time.
Okay.
I didn't know at the time. So I said to myself, I'm open to having or going on dates with a couple of people. And then when I know what it is that I want, I will commit to one date. And the reason I'll say I cheated is because I didn't tell all the people that I was going on dates with that I'm seeing other people. Do you understand what I mean? Mm-hmm. For me, I would see that as cheating because some of those people maybe actually invested emotions and time to our dating. Yes. I knew I'm going on a date with you. I'm getting to know you, but I'm not there. I'm not there until I find what I want. And then most of those didn't work out. But that's why I'm saying, I just wanted to find something, but I wasn't committed emotionally. And I told myself I'm also not going to indulge sexually. But there was a time where I met someone and I was in a relationship with this person. And from the word go, I knew it's not going to work. But because I was so lonely, Anita, I was so lonely, and he brought a lot of attention into my life, but he didn't tick other boxes. Okay. But at the back of my mind, I knew if there was someone else that came along, I'm definitely going to entertain that. But I didn't tell him that. And someone else did come along. And I started a relationship with this person while I was with this person. Okay. Mm-hmm. But it didn't take long before I actually told him, I'm like, okay, no, I don't want us to continue this relationship. But
so I think we lost you there for a bit.
Sorry, yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
What was the last part? Sorry.
It just went blank. So you knew the relationship didn't take too long when you knew that now you've got the two guys and you dating the other one. That's where we were at.
Yeah. Yeah. So immediately when the other guy came in my life, I knew, I'm like, I need to get out of this. But obviously I couldn't just come and say, okay, bye, it's over. I had to kind of build up something. And I won't lie and say I was fair about it because, you want to leave and say, no, you did this and this and this and this. You don't want to say, I found someone else, because also I didn't want it to kind of chow at his ego. You know what I mean? Yeah. I had to be diplomatic about it and say, no, I don't see this going anywhere and so forth, But I was honest with the new guy to say that I am seeing someone this is where I'm at with this person. And also, don't think I'm breaking up with this person because of you. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it because this relationship for me was just for time's sake, just for the attention and everything. It was never for emotional issues. Yeah. So that is my stepping out.
You touched on yet another topic when you said, I was lonely.
Yeah.
You said I was lonely. And because we're running out of time and I really want us to go into this. I feel like part 2, let's talk about loneliness driving you into cheating. Because there are people in relationships who have been in relationships for so long, but they are lonely within a relationship.
Definitely.
You know?
I'm sorry, just to interject quickly before we go far, before the session ends. I think one thing that we need to realize also, relationships and marriage are not the same. When you guys are still dating, you will have the time, you'll have the money, you'll have everything that you need to drive the relationship. And then you go into the marriage thinking it's going to be like that. And then when the marriage happens, things are different, completely different. There's finances to talk about, there's family issues, there's time issues, there's work, there's everything. It changes everything. So this ideal relationship that you had in your mind is no longer what it is. And I think that's the basis of where the stepping out starts. Because your expectation is never the same. Now, it's not met, rather. You know, marriage is more real than we think it is. It's not what we think it is. So based on that, I think that's something we should also touch on, because you can be lonely in a marriage too.
Yeah, true.
Very lonely.
True. Very true. I'm still newlywed, so I hope it goes well.
I hope so, but communication.
It goes a long way. It does. Communication does go a long way. It's really opening up and really talking. That there's something you said, and I still wanted to go back. And because you said relationships are marriages, and marriage is two different things, because we go into these marriages with the expectations that we had because of the relationship, and which is so true. I think it goes back to exactly what my doctor said. The girl you were died, and the woman that you are is born. And I feel like we need to take that in every stage of our life. You know, the girlfriend that I was before died, and the wife in me is born. You know, and then now you need to try and navigate what wife means, and you know, your husband needs to understand what husband means.
Exactly.
It's so much. I feel like there's so much forces, and there's so much. I wish we would have somebody who's older, who has been married for like. I'll try and find someone for part 2. Somebody who's been married for a very long time, who's willing to actually voice out the differences and what maybe they haven't stepped out of their marriage and what keeps them there. And then maybe somebody who's willing to be open enough to say, I've stepped out of my marriage.
I stepped out.
Yes. So then we can hear it in all different angles, because right now we talking from our own experiences, not every woman's experience. And it would be nice to hear from other people talking why women cheat, and if they've cheated, why did they cheat? And I hope that we can have that Instagram live, and then maybe we can actually break it down, and then that will be the creation of part 2, maybe hearing other women, and then we can come back and have a part 2, maybe also with somebody who has been married, or even who has been in a relationship for a long time, because some other people, marriage is just, you know, a piece of paper, but they've been together with their partner for over 20, 15 years. So I feel like let's not go too further with anything else. Let's save more for part 2. But I want to thank you so much for joining me. And, you know, every time I ask people to be a guest co-host, it's so hard. Other people will be like, oh, Anita, I don't know what I'm going to say, but thank you for jumping in without even hesitating to do it. We would love you to come back again. Obviously, part 2 and more other episodes. It would be great to have you, because I really want to dive in deep with different topics, because even if we're going to end part 2, we also need to start season 3. It's about cutting generational curses, healing ourselves entirely, our bloodline, our lineage, whatever it is that makes an unhappy marriage, what is the solution? I know we're not professionals, but there should be something that makes it better. And that's what I want to do with season 3. I want us to tackle each topic and also understand in its totality, how do we break that? Thank you, Tammy, for joining the Unspoken Truth family. We were rudely cut, but we'll make it up when we record part 2 on why women cheat. Infidelity doesn't come from lack of love. It comes from lack of respect. Unknown. Follow me on Instagram and subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcast. I'm Nita Terry T, your host of Unspoken Truth. Until the next episode, remember, everything in life comes with divine order, divine timing, and divine presence, always surrounded by divine spirit. Dear you, you're going to be just fine. I thank you.
The Unspoken Truth is the catalyst for important and thought-provoking conversations that need to be had. The network tackles social ills, spiritual healing, soul-searching, and mental health awareness. To subscribe, click on the show link to follow our podcast and be part of the Unspoken Truth family. Find us on all social media platforms.